Dusty.
I got one of the table already, so.
This time we reached the right inside.
These colorful pictures.
You see this? Steam shed, there's-
Oh, what was that other thing? I thought that was
That
it.
was it, that was it.
Oh, okay. When are we gonna hear about
No.
wonder like the swimming pool, when are we gonna be getting there? Plans?
I dated these this summer.
Next meeting, she's gonna be Sunday night.
That makes anything better.
It's 7 o'clock, call the meeting to order. Begin with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, first thing on the agenda, we'll approve the minutes from the meeting we had on August 7th. Or the agenda, approve the agenda, thank you.
Move approval as printed.
I'll second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Now, on page 1 to 3 are the minutes from the January 7th council meeting. August, thank you.
I move that we approve the minutes.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Public input? None? I would, I know Sydney's going to be here next week with regard to the pool, but I'd like to extend our appreciation to our summer help, Sydney and all the lifeguards at the pool. Roger Haberling, the job that he did out the our baseball and softball complex. And he did a lot regard to the bleachers, making sure that they were safe, the lining and mowing and everything. So that, and also for, you know, Craig for everything he does down at the city park. So just want to extend an appreciation there. I'd also like to take this opportunity, if anybody in the community has any questions with regard to whatever, you know, to please, you know, contact one of us, contact myself. And you know, just if you have a question, I'm happy to answer. And I think that will help with regard to maybe putting some things at ease that that may not need to be extended beyond what it should be. Also, Jan, I appreciate you and Shayla and Terry sitting down with regard to phase 4, you know, with regard to getting the information out there that needs to, and we're still in the process of gathering, you know, that information, just, and seeing if there's any additional funding with regard to that can help minimize the expense to the city, and also what aspects of Phase 4 the city wants to, you know, to undertake. So, you know, so I do appreciate that too as well. So, anyway, hearing no other public input, we will go to unfinished business, and we'll start with the insurance on pages 4 to 5. And this is basically the proposal with regard to put forth by the South Dakota Public Assurance Alliance, and also Joe at the American Bank and Trust.
American
Encrypted.
Trust
Trust insurance.
Yeah, yes, thank you. And that information, I believe, is on pages 4 through 5. Now, with regard to this, we either have to, I think we have this meeting, but the final decision has to be made by
Before the 8th.
before the 8th, which would take us, I think, when's the next council meeting?
5th, I believe.
6th?
For the 4th.
Okay, now I'm not saying that to put it off, but I'm just, you know, putting that out there with regard to, but it is on the agenda tonight, and the information is presented to, with regard to those pages.
I think with the information provided, I would make a motion that we put this to a vote, and I would like to motion that ATI Intact would be our insurance provider.
Which policy are we talking about?
The policy listed.
Because we had talked about an occurrence policy and a claims made policy.
Didn't bring my notes, I don't remember. Which one did we talk about on that, Will? Did we decide on the occurrences or claims? I know we talked about it.
Well, I don't think we made a decision,
Yeah.
but to the best of my understanding of all the conversations we've had, it seemed like we were leaning towards the occurrence policy rather than the claims.
That's what I have stuck in my
That's what
mind
I
as
thought
well.
it was too. I wasn't sure.
But that isn't what I have in front of me.
As far as the numbers, what are we looking at?
Is there a second?
No, well, we're just talking about, finding out what policy we're talking about, okay? So we got the policy,
Well, we do have the policy here, but it's the updated one. But I believe this is a claims made policy.
This is the most recent email that I've received on what's available. So if you guys received something else from Joe with a different premium,
This is from you, what I have here.
No, I didn't.
wish this would say one way or the other.
Because.
Yeah, this is the
originally we
claims
had-
made.
Before we had the updated values, we had, a quote for both styles of policy.
I think that was in our packets, wasn't it, that we had earlier, that we had both the, occurrences and the claims?
Yeah, but that was before this
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
This is the updated one with the updated values. I believe.
Yeah, and it states on here, this is the claims made.
Are both proposals using the updated values?
Oh, yeah, it does say that.
We submitted a updated, so the invoice that is in your packet,
Mm-hmm.
that is our updated property values. And I think what Will is looking for is the intact occurrence-based policy with the updated property number. You don't have that on here. You have your claims-made policy with the updated property value, so Joe didn't send you what the other price is for your second month, right? Is that right, Will?
I think
That-
that's what I'm.
That's what it looks like here. This is the claims made policy here, yes.
And this,
Well, that number includes the cyber and the terrorism coverage, and that is a claims-made number. The occurrence is roughly, I don't have the exact number in front of me, it's roughly about $2,000 more
Okay,
for the occurrence policy.
okay.
So the way I take it is, at the end of this one, it lists what the new premium would be with the updated property values increased. Is 3.2 million higher than the previous quoted plan, so it's still a claims-made policy, it's just,
Yeah, it's, everything else is the same, but it's a claims-made policy rather than an occurrence policy.
Right.
It has the updated values in it. And that went from 74.6 to 80.
And again, that number includes the cyber and the terrorism.
and an increase of 3.2 million
Yep.
of coverage.
Lynn, I had a question for you on this one.
Sure.
I don't remember if this was the 2 million coverage policy or it was the 5 million.
I think that's the 2 million quoted.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
okay, before we go into more discussion, are we, the motion on the table with regard to the policy with, so,
I think the motion might need to be cleaned up.
Yes.
Yeah, it would need to be cleaned up.
So I'd let that one die.
for lack of second? Okay,
Can I rescind the motion?
well, either that or we just.
Can we
no-
discuss it for just a
It doesn't have a
little
second, so we'll just.
Yeah.
Dead. It's dead in the water.
Okay,
Yeah.
right,
Okay.
okay.
Sounds good.
So now we can discuss it further now, right? And there's not another
Yes.
motion made.
Yes, no second, so we'll rescind it, and then besides it dies is lack of second.
Who's this one? I mean, that was for the 2 million. That was the original one.
Code enforcement.
Well, we can keep going on this.
Yeah, we could, let's, is there any other information that we need to have with regard to moving?
What is
Yeah.
the
So
The
the general audit
dollar amount
liability would be
for SDPA is on their $2 million?
This is their $2 million quote right here.
Pardon?
78, 572, 91.
And then after the discounts, it's 74.
But the discounts aren't guaranteed.
Yeah, they are. We get those discounts every year.
Yep, so you're,
The only guaranteed one though is our renewal credit. The other ones are not guaranteed.
nope, so the renewal credit is guaranteed as long as you return your packet on time. Loss control is guaranteed as long as you follow the loss control recommendations. Good, it renews every 3 years. The loss ratio depends on your claims dollars to your contribution dollars. And law enforcement is just like loss control, as long as your law enforcement guys participate in the loss control program associated with law enforcement. So it's guaranteed as long as you participate.
And up till now, we participated in all of those, so this
Yep.
is our quote for the next year.
Yeah, so this would be guaranteed. This is the number that you would pay for
For $2 million.
For $2 million of coverage.
Yep, and I looked back and I think we quoted 5 and it's right at $7,000 more. But your credits would increase a little bit also, so there'd be a little bit of savings even on that 7,000.
So
but-
7,000 more for the 5 million? Is that what it was?
Yeah, yep, roughly.
That's, yeah, close enough.
Yeah, full ballpark.
I might have.
Now, was the other proposal 5 or 6 million liability?
It's 5 million with a $2 million aggregate, so they have a max of 7 million. SDPAA does not have a liability.
So don't confuse aggregates with,
It's
so
okay.
aggregate is the most they're gonna pay in one coverage term where an
Okay.
aggregate exists. So if they have a $2 million limit or occurrence limit on your underlying policy with an umbrella, then your per occurrence is those two numbers combined unless you erode an aggregate.
So, looking at the numbers, so if it increases $2,000, you said, for occurrence, approximately, that would bring that policy up to 82. 82,186. And with the $7,000 added is approximately, you're
Less
about
some.
81,000.
I have those figures.
So they're within $1,000.
It was before the credits, it was $86,357.20, and then after credits, it was $81,416.96.
81,416.90 something.
96.
That's after the.
That's after the credits,
That is
correct?
total, yep, that is our,
So then, you're looking at 81,416 after the credits for the 5,000.
5
And,
million.
5
5 million,
million.
5 million,
yeah, that's what I meant.
we knew what you meant.
yeah.
And then for the ATI, it'd be approximately 82,186 with the occurrence policy. Because that's $2,000 on the other one.
The cyber code is about $2,095, and the terrorism, which you can accept or not accept, is $1,385.
So you're looking at $3,500 there
Correct.
of cost
Can you,
for the two extra coverages.
what is terrorism coverage?
So if
So that's
somebody blows
3,500.
something up in here and it's deemed to be terrorism covered, then you essentially get additional payments from the United States government for that.
Along with the payments for the actual insurance?
Yes.
So does yours, Lynn, does yours include terrorism coverage and the cyber?
Yes, so our cyber is built into our general liability line. We don't charge out separate. It's not optional.
Okay,
You just get it from us. You could purchase additional standalone cyber, but
Okay.
we don't have like an
how,
option. to.
how much does your cyber cover?
So our cyber is $500,000 aggregate per year, so that's the most the carrier would pay with $100,000 deductible.
Okay. What's, you know your deductible on yours? I thought it was, that should be in the paperwork if you guys, thank you guys for having your all your bookwork here. Sorry, Tom. I'm going. I'm just trying to get all the numbers so where they're comparable, you know?
So, I don't know if we have the booklet or not. It depends upon what the cyber is.
Okay.
There's a $500,000 limit for some, $250,000 for some others, so it kind of varies.
Okay.
The deductible, according to this paperwork, is $10,000.
10,000 deductible, correct.
Okay.
Have you ever had one? Is there, I mean, because I think it'd be cyber.
There can be. We've also used the SDPAA, and they've come and done a cyber study on our city, all of our stuff through Dakota, or,
Project boundary fence.
yes. Yeah. And that was at no cost to the city. They did a whole,
So it looks like we'd be at 82, 186 and change for ATI. We would be at 81, 416 and change for SDPA.
Do we actually have to add those other ones? Cause in his previous quote, he had the cyber and terrorism already added into that, so I don't know if we have to add that again.
No, that was his adding the,
So the 80,000 that wasn't included.
So where are you adding the extra 2,000 for?
Added 2,000 for the occurrence.
Okay, never mind, alright.
yeah.
That's where I was adding that. I didn't add it, that's why I was asking if hers was included, because otherwise I was gonna deduct that $3,500 off the total to make it equal, you know, that's,
It's
I'm just trying to get it as
My
clear as possible here.
Clear as mud.
Clear, no, the numbers don't lie, buddy. That's one thing I like about numbers.
Okay.
And so really what we're looking at is the difference between a no occurrence policy and a claims policy.
Right,
That really is the,
because if we went with the claims policy, it would be 80,186, and SDPAA would be 81,416 for the $5 million coverage, and yours would be $6 million. If we do the occurrence, it would be 82,186 ATI and 81,416 SDPAA.
ATI is about $800 more if we would choose the occurrence policy.
Correct.
They are cheaper if we would go with
Claims, yes.
But
But,
you get another million in liability.
correct.
Well, and the benefit being,
Well, and I think the property values increased about 900,000 with your policy, and they increased 3.2 million with ATIs.
yeah, property values aren't that comparable, really. I mean, they're similar, but really are just dissecting those numbers. That is one of the differences that's there.
Right.
Steve, what are your crime limits? And is it a blanket crime policy?
$500,000 limits, no deductible.
Is that crime or cyber?
Crime. And not limited to one at a time, not limited to one category.
What are yours, Lynn?
Page 19 of the,
Oh, we have $1 million,
Okay.
no deductible, but and the only reason I asked is if they are not more than what is statutorily required, then you would need to start getting your finance officer bond and stuff like that. So I just wanna make sure that you don't, if you do move, and that's certainly, I respect your choice, but just making sure that, cause with the enhanced crime, with the $1 million limit, like right now, you shouldn't have a finance officer bond or any other bond statutorily required because those they satisfy, the legislature passed the law. So, just double check that, make sure that they do in fact meet, if you change, that's the first thing you're gonna need to double check, because if they don't, then you need to get bonded, because people will look for that. It's a common, easy thing that some people look for, to bother their local government, so.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
I also have a question. I'm sorry, I'm not very good at insurance.
we're getting better.
Aren't there, like replacement costs on both policies?
I
So
think-
the property values really are irrelevant? Because if you have the building insured for $1 million and it costs $2 million to replace it, you replace it. If you have it listed at $2 million, you're still gonna replace it?
Unless you have enough building damage to where your total value is exceeded, so.
Right.
Property values are absolutely important.
Because
I mean, they're very important,
if you had to
Depending on the
replace
type of-
all of them,
right?
it matters because each one of those buildings is replacement cost. But if you go over, if the actual replacement cost of all of those combined is more than what the total of valued assets is, then you're stuck paying out of pocket for the rest of it.
Difference out of your pocket, if everything was destroyed. So if the property values were at $3.2 million, I know they went up by 3.2.
Right.
But if they were 3.2 they have it 3.2, she had them at 900,000, it cost 3.2 million, the other 2 million would come out of the pocket of the city. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So it's like replacement is replacement.
Replacement is replacement up to the
Price
market
of the
limit,
value.
assuming you don't have co-insurance
Right.
questions and problems on top of it, so they are very important.
So,
Like, I mean, I think one of the questions that needs answered by this group is how important it is to have an occurrence policy over a claims made policy, whether or not that's a priority. That's, you know, that's a huge tipping point one direction or the other, I think.
We keep looking at the limit, cause occurrence is another million, correct? I mean, at a certain point, we just need to rein back, like, we already went from 2 million to 5 million, you know, they can just, if we keep going for the extra million, I don't know if it's
What
necessary.
extra million?
On the occurrence, it was an extra million of coverage, correct? Is that-
On the liability.
On the liability. We get an extra million on that if we go with the occurrence.
Mhm.
But if we go with claims laid, we're just go back to the 5 million that we were talking about before, upping it to. It just roped it in on the HCI one.
Is your mic on, Pat?
It is, but I don't know, I gotta really get in here,
That's very good, thank you.
so.
The thing I like about the, the occurrence policy is that you can leave then without any repercussions. You're, every bit that you've paid into a premium, you're then insured indefinitely for that amount of time that you were paying into that premium. It makes leaving way less complicated. And I think then that also allows you to be a little more picky and choosy about what and whom you're getting insurance from. And it also allows you to put pressure on the people you're getting the insurance from because they have to perform, because you can leave that much easier. And to me, that's worth something. I think. I don't know what everyone else thinks about that, but I think there's a large advantage to that type of policy.
Any other questions, clarifications, comments?
I have another one, apologize. So I was on Intech's website today, looking stuff up, trying to understand all this stuff. And it says that they're not gonna do public entity insurance solutions in the United States. Outside of our First Fire program, is that what they're going under, First Fire program?
Well, you can answer that better than me. I forwarded the email to my phone, so I had it, but go ahead.
That's incorrect. I mean, they were purchased by Tokyo Marine, which is a $46 billion company, worldwide company, so the assets, and actually all the people are moving over to Tokyo Marine, which is based out of Houston.
Which was in our original paperwork, their
Which
name
the
was
original-
mentioned,
This was
yeah.
discussed back in May.
I must have missed it, cause I was reading that today, I was like, what? Cause I had,
And see, I was waiting for that question to come up. I forwarded the email, because I got that information. I'm like, what is this, you know? So I sent an email out right away and say, hey, please, somebody's got to explain this to me.
Tokyo Marine HCC, which is based out of Houston, is rated by 3 of the top financial rating companies in the United States and the world, and they're rated at the top. So financially, they're at the top.
And it's Tokyo with an I, not Tokyo with a Y.
so we're not really getting insurance from Intech, we're getting insurance through this Tokyo with an I.
Intact is still gonna be on the, in insurance, you can have what they call paper, which there's no real company involved with the paper, and you can have an insurance company, so there's 2 types of ways. I worked for an insurance company that had 2 sets of paper, but there was no entity behind them, it was just the financial backing. So in Intact will, the first premium, the first year of this policy would be still an Intact name, but all of that is moving over to Tokyo Marine, so that on the renewal, if there's a renewal, then it would all be just a Tokyo Marine, that would be seamless on this side of it. All the changes are gonna be on the financial and the backside of it.
Quote unquote, the name's gonna change, but that's it.
Correct.
But from my understanding, this isn't like a real recent development, is it?
No. I mean, if you would go back to May, the Tokyo Marine was on some of the documents back then.
Right, it
Went
was
back
in
and
the
Yeah, I saw
proposals,
that.
yeah.
But so everything, Intact's gonna stay all the same, we're gonna keep Joe as the rep, and the
Yep.
customer service is supposed to be the same.
Yep, Intact will go, the name will go away.
Name will go away.
Right.
I'm wondering what about policy, about premiums and stuff in the future, how's that gonna probably be about the same? I mean, because we looked at the history of Intact, so what's the history of it's gonna be about the same.
Well, they do a specialty market, they specialize in, since, I think it was the early eighties in exactly this market, public entity market. For me to forecast what the premiums are gonna be next year, I can't.
Well, you see historic, but you can't go forward, you know, what historic been about the same as Intact's were, or?
I don't know that answer.
Unfortunately, with insurance, nobody can tell us what the premiums are gonna be next year.
Well, how many calamities are you gonna have this
Yeah.
year? That's what's gonna tell you.
Wouldn't that be
what-
great?
That'd be great.
Oh, man.
The answer's a lot easier if we know if there's no claims.
Unfortunately, that's one of those unknowns, you know, and whether that's your car insurance, whether that's your any insurance.
There used to be insurance companies that would do multi-year policies, but those are extremely few and far between because
You can get burnt in a hurry
you can
doing that.
burn really quick.
Any additional questions, clarifications, or anything?
I like the fires and stuff that are in Hawaii, is that gonna affect the insurance companies over here?
Possible.
Because, you know, that's gonna be a really big, lot of claims there and everything, and I just wondered how that was gonna work.
Well, you insure and you reinsure and you reinsure, so what happens over here affects what happens over there.
Yeah,
Every year, there's some natural disaster in the United
What's
States.
going on in California right now is gonna
Costs
affect
some
it.
insurance
Oh,
company a pile of
yeah.
money.
Everywhere and anywhere affects everything on those bigger deals like that.
So what's everybody's thought? Are we gonna move on this tonight? I
think
guess
that
where
was the
I come
intention.
down to is the extra liability. I've been on public boards for 43 years, and I've been sued 3 different times. And I've been sued in my business one time because of an accident that an employee had. To me, it comes down to protecting my butt for being here.
right.
And that's where I probably am gonna land with the higher liability. And I don't care if it costs a little more.
I'm kind of with Will on doing the occurrence. You know, I think that'd be a good way to go.
Do we
Well,
want to take that as far as, then I need a motion then. to-
I say, should I clean up my motion?
Yep.
Yeah, clean up your motion and then,
I would make a motion that we vote on the insurance tonight, and we would go with ATI with the occurrence policy.
okay,
Should be all I need on that, right?
I'll second that.
Discussion.
I think I put in my 2 cents,
Okay.
where I'm coming down.
I think I've also put in my,
Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed the same. Motion carries. Thank you
So
both.
One of the questions that came in my office today was they would like to know from each one of you why you decided to go with the new guy. With the new-
why what?
with the new- One of the questions that came into my office was why are you gonna go with the new company?
Because we got To me, it's $2.3 million more of coverage.
And not only that, I think the work that the committee has put into it and stuff, I think everyone has done their due
The additional
diligence.
1 million liability.
Yeah. In this day and age, with all, people like to sue, so it's good to have good coverage.
Well, and I appreciate Tammy's comment with regard to the committee. I think, some of you did your own, correspondence too with regard to trying to gather some additional information too as well too, so. Okay.
Well, and it isn't like this decision was made overnight. I mean, this was actually presented a year ago. So, and then the process again started the beginning of this year. So it's not a decision anybody takes lightly. And we've all done a lot of correspondence back and forth and, with Lynn and with Joe and.
I think we've done our due diligence. The last 2 to 3 months, this has been discussed a lot of times, a lot of information has changed hands.
Many meetings on it.
Since I've been here, this issue has taken more of my time than any other issues combined.
Yep.
It's nothing that was done without a lot of thought.
Yeah, we didn't consider it lightly, that's for sure.
I guess my decision come down to, it was a tough decision because both companies represent their company very well and very professionally. At the end of it, my gut was in the future, we're gonna have a little bit more hands-on approach to our, property values and being able to stay ahead of them instead of being reactive to, we're a few years behind on our property value of something, where if we have someone in town, they can look at it and be like, oh, no, we gotta correct this now before something happens. But this was not a very easy decision for, in the whole grand scheme of things, a relatively small bill that the city has.
Lastly, I'd like to say there that for myself, if I had to choose between one of these two, I'd have gone with ATI, and I don't know how, as somebody that's supposed to be representing a constituent base in Miller, how I would be able to sit up here and choose something different than what I would choose for myself and expect the taxpayers to be okay with that.
Okay.
That was kind of mine.
One of the things that we have with, South Dakota Public Insurance is the fact that, with regard to safety meetings, information of that sort, and is that something, I know we've talked about that too, but you might want to indicate the information with regard to, those services for our employees.
At this point?
Yeah, if you'd like to. So just,
I mean, we have multiple safety, the insurance company will be providing it, ATI will be providing services, so you'll be getting it from kind of a multitude of places. But yes, we will provide, safety walkthroughs, there's the, what was it, the call-in line,
And a while back, I believe Joe
I believe his name was Mike Breen. I can
gave a
look it
good
up.
description of what
Yeah, he
they-
gave
yeah.
a
But
list
I-
of all the
you know,
different.
And he did, but I just wanted that information just more or less for the public
Public
record too
knowledge.
as well. Yes, public knowledge. But and we don't have to go through everything, but we did, those are some of the services that are gonna be available to the, to the city too as well.
so we have in-person safety meetings, we have online safety topics. We will, be providing a claims team, so if there is a claim, we'll be managing the claim came from here. So then I think somebody had mentioned that they used the human resource and the attorney services. Those are available, as previously discussed. So you can call in at any time and get that information that you needed. Those are available.
And just more or less for clarification, which are updated with South Dakota codified law and things of that sort?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay, I just want to put that out there, though.
And then
Yeah.
the safety name was Lindy on, because all the employees have to go through MSHA classes every year.
Yep.
And currently they're traveling to Mitchell, I believe, to receive those classes. And the way I take it is this could actually be a local class, like he would come and teach our city. So
Come
we wouldn't have
here,
to travel
yeah.
to that.
Yep.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay, anything else? Clarification? Want to thank you both very much and stuff. It was been a painstaking, and the thing of it is, what I, whatever aside, I mean, we started this back, you talked about a year ago, and I know earlier than May, I mean, this has been, you know, talked about and, you know, things of this sort, so you know, some decisions are, you know, I'll just reiterate, you know, what Will said is, you know, it's tough to make decisions and you just try to do it on the basis of the information that's provided and you just, you know, go for there, which one's the best, so. And, you know, as far as making the best decision you feel is, okay. Anything else on that? Okay, I want to thank you both, okay, very
Yes.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for answering all our questions and,
And making all the trips here. both
Yes,
of you.
yes.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks, Lynn.
So there'll be some papers to sign and stuff. Joe will be back on the 30th, so Joe will take care of that when he gets back.
Okay,
Perfect.
Okay.
We'll just give him plenty of time. And then after that, we'll sit down and come up with a plan of action, what to do over the next year.
As far as trainings and perfect.
Training, walkthroughs, you know, we'll put a plan together, sit down and come up with a plan, and, you know, go through it that way.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, well, we would require or need, and then also what you guys may recommend.
correct, I mean, whether it's going through safety manuals or safety walkthroughs or whatever the situation may be, we'll come up with a plan to hit that when we're gonna do it and how we're gonna do it, and whether it's MSHA and we're gonna do it online here or whatever.
Mhm.
We'll come up with all those details after it's going.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
That sounds
thank
good.
you for
Thank you
your
for
time.
making the trip.
yeah. Okay, the next thing on the agenda was, for unfinished business, was the code enforcement.
I just asked to put that back on there because we had talked at length without an agenda item last meeting and is basically in specifics to grass care. In February, the previous council had met and they made a motion. I don't have the exact motion in front of me, but it was to leave all code violations to the code enforcement, and out of the hands of law enforcement. And the previous council had said it looked better that a uniformed officer was not approaching people about violations. I agree with that motion, but it was never corrected in the book. So I just read what was in the book still. But at the same time, we've discussed it at length already, but we're not gonna leave grass to the code enforcer to come down, because he's already gonna be coming down here once a quarter, and we can't afford to have him here every week.
Right.
So, just with what we discussed, where we see a lawn, we report it to Ron, you know, go back to that. I just want to clarify that, because
Right.
there's a lot of confusion about what came out of last meeting, but.
And to add to that, I'm trying to search, I'm not gonna say in all that I'm aware of, when the landowner has been notified, things have been taken care of. I know one individual who did mow but left some things on his boulevard, I think after the last meeting, went and cleared up his boulevard. And,
Saw
and
a
I-
lot of mowing happening the last 2 weeks.
yeah, and I appreciate that. And I also think that, and with regard to, you know, to landowners, we want to work with you, but at the same time, we want to protect the integrity of code expectations and length of grass and weeds and in consideration to your neighbors and neighborhood too, because of, you know, some possibilities that could evolve because of that, you know, so, anyway. Anything else on that?
So are we gonna have a motion just to make it clear what we're gonna do with the grass and go back to code, to the way our code book is, or?
I think or someone needs to maybe rewrite well, the whole book, honestly, but
Well, I think, you
that
know,
at
little
least
by
as
little.
as we see them, and as we see that we're having issues, because this is already the third different time. We just need to be proactive with this council, where if we see something that is not going with practice, the way the city practices now, we need to get that changed. Because the only thing we can technically go by, if someone fights us on it, is what's in our book.
So,
So what is the policy?
That was the policy that I read, where it is the police department, it is the chief of police to do it. But the motion was already made in February that we're gonna handle like lawn care and stuff like that in-house, where someone notifies Ron, and Ron gives the landowner a heads up, like, hey, mow it by now, otherwise we're gonna come take care of it. So it's an informal practice, but it's a practice that has worked for years.
so do you guys have someone that will rewrite your ordinances or policies so that you can bring it to?
Well, we
Yeah,
can
we can-
rewrite
we
it,
can-
I just
yeah.
need to know how to do it. What you wanted
We,
to say.
we certainly have one that we go to that can do that.
Well, we wanna do what you said, what we
Yeah.
So you
talked
want
about
it,
in
instead of being the
February.
police chief, to have the street department do it? And do you want the police to drive around and, I mean, they're the ones that are up and down every street.
Yes,
I-
I have not had the opportunity to talk to Ted, but I think any city employee can notify Ron. Whether we put that burden on a conglomeration or one specific department, obviously, the police get a lot of miles in a day, so they're gonna be the most, but I don't know if we have to put it to one person. Cause then
Right.
I don't want another department saying, that's not our job.
Right.
Well, then the thing that we need to change is to take the chief of police off there and then indicate that Ron would be the
Notifier.
Point of
notifier,
contact, yeah.
contact person.
Yeah, so we can do that. I definitely like the part where the, street department head is the notifier to the landowner.
Right,
But then how we see fit on any given year, any city employee can notify Ron.
Yeah,
of-
Or should know.
Or should.
notify
Yeah.
Ron.
or even one of us,
Yes.
or even a
We're a city
patron,
employee.
even a
Yeah.
patron
Yeah.
of our
Yes.
community.
I guess I think I like that better instead of,
Does the chief of police still need to be notified
Yeah.
when Ron is notified?
I would say if Ron has an issue, then he needs to notify the chief. of
There you
police.
go.
there you go.
He is the last
But-
course of,
What do we pay the code enforcer for? Does he get, I'm not sure how that is, I just want to clarify that. He gets paid like 1,500 a quarter or
No,
something?
he gets paid for the hours and the letters that he sends out. We pay a $1,500 retainage right at the beginning of the
Okay.
year. And then once that's up,
Then you pay more.
well, then we pay more. Once
Yeah.
we've used those hours, but that 1,500 goes towards the hours.
oh,
Because
okay, so
sometimes if you
that's a
have to-
prepayment is what it is.
Yeah, for the first
Okay.
$1,500 of bills.
If you have to enforce something, it's kind of like, if anybody still has that, and I didn't bring that with me tonight, the letter that Ted had written to
It's
the
right here.
mayor.
It's right here.
Yeah,
And we can, I think I know where you're going.
Yeah.
We can do that where, do we like the idea of if we are having consistent issues with one house, then we report that landowner to the code enforcer?
Especially if it has to go further, because then you want to make sure you're within those, not necessarily
You check all your
laws.
boxes is what you're doing.
That you do it correctly so that it doesn't come back on you.
Because that can be done remotely, can it not?
Yes.
yeah, so we can
You
let,
should be able to send a picture or.
Well, usually what
email.
happens is Ron goes and mows it after, if it's not cleared up by Wednesday at noon, Ron's department will go mow it, and then we bill them that 200 plus however many extra hours it takes. So they get a bill for it,
Yeah.
so let's do it where the ordinance is going to be that the street department is in charge of, we're just talking about grass here.
Grass only, yeah.
Right.
Or
Be
grass
notified.
and weeds, yeah.
And then they take care of it. Any city employee or city department can notify Ron. If Ron has any issues as far as getting on the property to take care of it, he can
Call Ted.
respond accordingly of how he thinks he needs to respond.
Well, call Ted if there's any kind of altercation whatsoever, physical, whatever, verbal, I mean,
Yeah.
not physical.
Yeah, we don't need to get in a fist fight about.
Any kind of
grass.
verbal
Yeah.
argument, complaint, whatever, then he needs to stop, call Ted, and
Yep,
whoever that is on to duty needs to come over and,
Right.
yep. So let's just leave. Or do we need to put Ron can notify the code enforcer as he sees fit? Do we need to put something that detailed in there?
I don't think so.
I don't
I
think.
think- Not
it's
with
ever
grass.
gotten to that point.
Yeah.
I mean, once we bill them, they
It's
don't
a-
wanna come back.
not with
usually.
grass because we're gonna handle it. They're here, he's here every quarter.
Right.
So if you put something, it's in June and he doesn't come till September,
Okay.
it's already gonna be done and over with.
Yeah.
And we're already gonna know we're
Unless
gonna
it's
keep an eye
somebody
on that
that don't
property.
do it. Do you ever have somebody who don't correct it?
Well, that's when we do it.
Then, that's when we
So
mow
you
it.
go in and do it?
Yeah, we're
We mow
talking
it,
just
we
about
wait it
grass.
up
Put it
yeah.
on the taxes.
And do you have it, so they would automatically have a way that they would have to pay that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, we'll bill them, and then usually they end up paying it. And then they don't wanna get that bill again, cause it's a lot cheaper to hire somebody for,
Hire a kid to do it for $50.
exactly, than the 200 plus for the city to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think when you read that code, it also said vehicles were the cop's responsibility.
Well,
No, that's a code enforcer.
right.
Well, it was
It
still
wa- in the-
under that, the
in
whole
our-
place needs to get rewritten.
Okay.
Yes, because it was in the
Yeah.
Because it come down to
actually
the police
ordinance.
chief on everything.
Yes.
But let's just tackle the grass, because
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
what come
Yeah.
last week,
Yeah.
or last meeting.
Right.
And then we have a long winter of relooking at the code book
Yeah,
and at least making notes so we don't get behind on all these that,
Yeah.
Right.
well, that should be changed, that should be changed, that should be changed. But then if
Yeah.
we're not changing them, then we're just as bad as past.
Some of the
And I'm gonna back up too with regard to it. If one of our community members has a concern, contact one of us, because that way we know we're contacted. And then we can follow up. I'd rather have that than somebody contact them, you know, the street department, if I may say, and I'm trying to, you know, and then let's say something's not done or things of this sort. We can be the correspondent, you know, between, one of our constituents.
The
And then
middleman.
the, and that way, we are brought into the picture a little bit and made more aware of a concern somebody may have.
Right.
Because be very honest with you, there was a couple of things, if I didn't have somebody come to me and indicate a concern that they had, I wouldn't have known about it. And believe you me, I appreciated knowing about it, you know, and everything worked out okay, you know, but, at least we're not sitting back here scratching our head, you know, not being aware of something, so. I think we can be put in a better situation with regard to, concerns by those things being done, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we wanna, I think that's the, so we'll move ahead with changing, and then,
I don't think we need a motion
No.
because they already made the motion in February.
well, if we're gonna change the.
We have to read.
We have to read the
rewrite it.
ordinance.
Yeah, we have
Right.
to do that, okay, so we'll just
Do the
go in
ordinance.
the process of doing that, okay? All right. Moving on to new business, we have the airport grant pre-app, and that's found on pages 6 and 7. You see that it's, am I correct on that? Yes. And basically,
You need a motion
yes, to
to
accept.
go in, so we can, enter an agreement with them on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would make that motion.
I would second that motion.
Discussion.
I think you,
Basically, what this is just more or less a project cost breakdown as far as the design on the connector taxiway, reconstruction and access road rehab. Design includes wetland delineation, within the project area. So,
And it's a 90% federal.
and it's a 90% federal grant, yes. So this federal grant will play 90% and the city will play. Now, at one time, the city and the state, I can remember one time that the city paid, or the state paid 5% and the city paid 5%.
That's the way it is. That's the way it is.
Yeah, and so
They
that's,
switched it to 6 and 4, that we paid 6%
Yeah.
What
until
the-
COVID, and now they're back to the 5 and 4.
Now they even it out?
Yeah,
yeah,
so,
okay.
but
right.
yes, we do pay 5% of that whole project. Anything at the airport, it's 5%.
Nice.
Okay, we have a motion on the table and a second. We have a second, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. The second one is the South Dakota DOT agreement on pages 8 and 9. And basically, to, clarify things, that's just the state is going to put down, it's going to be a mat,
They're gonna, I think Matt and Pave,
from Dairy Queen to the Third
Third Avenue.
Avenue, and then Third Avenue to the state shop. Basically, the state is going to put that in, and then after they put that in, then we'll just more or less maintain it.
That'll be our road.
Okay, that'll be our road.
It is our road.
Yeah,
but-
but they're gonna upgrade it, and then,
More power to them.
Absolutely.
okay? So,
It's gonna go from where? From Dairy Queen to where?
Dairy Queen to the Third Avenue,
And then north to the state.
Basically, they're going to
Yeah.
their shop.
yeah,
Yes.
they're-
They're going from
From
45 to their shop. in the sh-
45 to their shop.
In the shortest direction.
They're welcome to do more.
Right?
He
Yeah.
said third, I
just-
went Third Street.
Yeah.
Third Avenue.
Dairy Queen,
Right?
Third
No,
Street.
no.
There's
Yeah,
no whole highway.
yeah, sorry. Okay,
No, they're not. Third Avenue, that's Third Avenue East.
You could just say to the dump ground road.
Yeah, to
Okay.
the dump ground road.
you bet.
In 50 years, when they read this, it's no longer down the road. That's what it is.
Unless you're going south, that's the racetrack road.
Yeah.
Or at my house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Just say the Istis house.
Mike's
Everybody
house.
knows that house.
okay. Do I have a motion for the South Dakota DOT agreement?
Make the
With-
motion.
Second.
Okay, you got it in a second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. The next one on pages 10 through 14 deal with collateral assignment of lease with Crippling Air LLC. And basically, that is the, just more or less, if something happens to the building, Bank West is the financier of that building, so they would have, first rights with regard to that.
I'll make a motion to approve the lease for Crippling Air.
I'll second it.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. South Dakota Fit Official Depository. So, with regard to, did you want to, with the Finance Committee, we talked about that.
Oops, I didn't mean to do that.
So,
Well, I think you guys,
Basically,
we did $1 million with American Bank and Trust and $1 million through SD Fit to go to the US Treasury.
well, what we're looking at, what I'm looking for here is right now, our official depositories from the mayoral appointments was American Bank and Trust and Coin. That's the only place that we can right now have funds. So we need to add to that official depository list, South Dakota Fit, so that I can send the money over there. So that's all we're doing is
You need to
changing.
make a motion?
Yes.
Yep, just
I'll
to
make
add
a
that to
motion,
our-
we add South Dakota Fit to our list of depositories.
I'll second.
Okay, that was a few.
It was a tie.
Yeah.
Team
Okay.
effort.
Flip a coin.
So motion and second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries.
Quick question on that last item. Did we decide was a 6-month or a 12-month CD through American Bank?
I think it was a 6-month.
6 months was a better interest.
Because it was a higher interest rate.
Yeah.
Higher interest.
And then that way we're not tied up as long.
And South Dakota Fit, we are in the money market.
We're doing 6-month on that one as well, because
Okay.
that's a little bit more.
Okay.
Right.
And then we'll
US
determine,
Treasury.
US Treasury bond?
US Treasury, yeah.
Treasurer,
Okay.
yes. Okay,
So now you
6
can do
month
that,
US
right, Shayla? Now you're okay to,
Yep, yeah,
okay.
I'm good. So tomorrow I'll make that transfer,
Swing.
yeah.
Do you like playing with that money?
business number 5, under new business is the storm shelter engineer and architect. We've had,
Is that this-
2 proposals.
I didn't see any numbers from,
It's
I
the
saw-
last page, isn't it?
Helms has numbers, but I didn't see
Yeah.
any numbers from the other one.
They did.
They didn't really,
Some of them had project costs on
Project,
them,
Yeah.
depending on the project, but nothing was
Or is that something else?
remotely close to our project as far as
what-
concession stand and storm shelter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
It's just
for
to
the,
show
for
up
the
everything.
record and for those who, for that, we're talking about down to the baseball diamonds.
And again, how is that gonna be funded?
what we're doing here is if we pick an engineering firm, they will do with NECOG, they'll work with NECOG to get a grant, or to apply for a FEMA grant. So that's what we're hoping for. If we don't get a FEMA grant, we won't do a storm shelter down there. We would have to do just a building, because we
Okay.
wouldn't be able to afford a storm shelter.
And are the engineer fees listed on here? On one there was, right?
Basically
Helms
10% of
They're-
the project cost
yeah.
is what I saw.
10% of the project cost?
Up to, and like Helms said, if it's up to a certain amount,
They cap
if
it.
it, they'll go down to like 7% if they need to keep under whatever that grant amount is that we receive. Helms would do that.
And
But
what we had
but
saw,
we have to
earl-
have this in place before we can move ahead for the applications.
and what we saw earlier, it was up to 75% to 80% paid by grant, where we would be on the hook for 25%,
And
20 to
that's-
25%.
And that's just the storm shelter portion. The concession stand and anything else is gonna be out of our pocket. So the grant portion would be the restrooms and the storm shelter portion.
Okay.
And then what we kinda had, what I discussed with the people that asked question is if they could make it really one building, so it all looks the same, but the part that would be reinforced is just the restrooms and the room, the storm shelter room.
And I'm thinking when we were going through, some ideas, that they had a good, I thought they had a good, something that's similar to what we're looking for as well. Now, how much it's gonna cost, that remains to be seen.
The only suggestion I have is any engineering company that comes, I'm assuming that they do come in person. They need to come in person to see the electrical.
Helms
Helms.
said they would be here in a week or two. If you choose them, they will be down here in a week or two.
Okay.
They would meet with the city employees, whoever
'Cause
on the
it's-
council wants to meet. They would go through that, see what we're dealing with there.
Because we have a very unique situation with the electrical
Yes.
room in there.
Yeah, and then the storm.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I told them about the sprinklers underneath.
Yep, so I mean, yeah, it's a very specialized, you're getting rid of some, but you're basically just sliding it over the old and
Base.
updating the system.
Yeah,
Gotta
And,
leave the doors open so it cools.
So they don't overheat.
That
Boxes are
would,
there.
that would all get replaced, but
yeah,
yes.
and I think one of the things that, it just happened that way, I think was Terry was here, Helms?
Corey Helms.
Corey was here, and he spent some time here on, something else. It'd been nice to, see him. I think the last time you saw him was when we went out to the pier to the airport meeting, but, yeah, so, anyway,
I'm sure they're well aware of it, but I have to say it out loud, it's just,
Yes.
it's a very specialized thing they need to look at.
absolutely.
Yeah, and these guys did say they could start whenever, so that we could get that grant application done as soon as possible.
Get the money coming for it,
Kinda need
or,
them to put the project together to know what we're talking about for dollars.
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yep. They don't charge for this phase at all, for this pre-design,
Pre-bid, pre-stuff.
grant
Yeah.
application stuff. They don't charge for anything that from Helms.
Do they
The other
charge
one-
us if we don't do it? If they
Huh?
put this project together and then we don't get the funding for it and we don't do the project, do we get a
They
bill from
understand.
them?
They
don't-
understand
no,
that.
They don't. They have done a lot for us over the years, Helms has. IMEG is the old Clark Engineering, and they did do some stuff in the past for the city, but it's a new company that bought out Clark.
I guess we have a I don't know everybody else's opinion, but we do have a long relationship with Helms, and they've done good things for Miller, and
Well, and I know I'm familiar with them up in Aberdeen too.
Yeah.
so,
I would make a motion that we go with Helms.
I'll
Okay.
second. Oh, that-
go ahead.
Okay.
Who did? Who second?
He did.
Susan?
You're both pointing fingers.
I'll take it.
Motion and a second to go with Helms with regard to the storm shelter engineering architect. Just to add, any discussion. You know, to add to what was said, I know when we brought them on to the airport, and then they helped us with the fire hall, and they've really been a huge asset, you know, to the city with regard to, you know, a number of the things they've done for us. So, with that, have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Okay. Building permits. We have Pat Colvin, covered porch. Must be something. My neighbor, that's
That's
pretty
kinda-
nice.
It's a common thing right now.
Yeah, I haven't got a kind of a nudge, but we should do something like that. Haven't got that yet.
Do you want us to,
Because it's hot out.
do you want us to vote on that?
Anyway,
Create a safe space for us, or what?
You can put in the building permit without his knowledge if you want to.
He will see it eventually.
yeah.
He's got to sign off on
I
it,
gotta sign
so.
off on it. So anyway, I'm looking for,
It's right over here. It's next to the fire hall.
oh, yes, okay, I just wanted to make sure that next to the fire hall.
Yeah, it's that
Okay.
house right over here.
All right.
It shows the drawing
Yeah,
on it too.
yep, and then I was looking for the signatures, and that's on the back of the, each
That's-
of the department heads have signed off on it. So,
Yep.
with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the building permit.
I'll make that motion. That we approve the building permit for Pat Colvin.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Entertain a motion to approve the bills.
I move to approve the bills.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Motion carries.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion. Okay,
Aye.
we're out of here. Aye. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
I'll look at the bills now.
Well, next meeting, I think
Signature.
beforehand, we will